Welcome to Unleashed. I'm James Rosile, and joining me is this guy right over here. His name is Aaron Quinton. Aaron, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, James. How you doing?
I'm doing swell, doing great. The weather, while we're recording this anyway, I don't know how it is where you are, but it's snowing where I am. Those beautiful, almost May, April flurries bring May. So how's the weather on your neck of the woods?
Well, I'm not too far south of you, so I am in, to be specific, this beautiful suburb of Buffalo, New York, known as Lancaster, New York.
Oh, yeah.
But as I like to say, if you root for the Buffalo Bills, you may as well just say you're from Buffalo. But people around here get real particular about that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So I have been to Lancaster a few times. Uh, we are going to talk a few topics right now that like the biggest Avengers fan is behind you right now reenacting Endgame, I believe. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, I think somebody is still excited about seeing Emperor Palpatine
Oh,
tell Daenerys Targaryen that it's true that Rey is really the daughter of Thanos.
well, that's a
Oh,
spoiler.
I'm sorry. I should have said
Spoiler alert
spoiler.
for the
Oh,
ages.
I'm sorry.
Spoiler for the
Spoilers.
ages. All right, let's get right into this because Star Wars is Star Wars. It's never going away. Every time, Aaron, my wife Aaron's always like, "How are you going to keep talking about Star Wars?" I'm like, "It just won't stop." And the other day, uh, some news kind of it didn't wasn't news. It was a comic book dropped, and it kind of went crazy. And why don't you give everybody a little bit of a background on that? I believe it's called Dark Visions number 3.
Yeah, and I touched on this in one of my own videos, and I got the title right in my title, and I screwed up, and I said Dark Visions number one, but you are right, James. It is Dark Visions number three, and this is Vader Dark Visions number three to be specific. So it's kind of like this spin-off series where the premise is that we are supposed to be seeing the Empire at its height from the point of view of like the average citizen of the empire. And I want to start there because somebody commented to me that I missed the point of the series, and they said that that's the premise, and so that I must be missing the point. And my rebuttal immediately to that was that this character that's portrayed in the issue, this female medic who's in the empire, and forgive me, but I forgot her name. I guess it doesn't matter. Spoiler: she's dead. Um, but anyways, she is not an average person in the Empire, if you ask me. So if that's supposed to be the premise, I don't really get it. I mean, unless Lord Vader was like Elvis Presley of his time, and he had just girls falling at his feet worshiping him. I thought the point was that she was an exception to the rule in the story itself that they presented. And then if she's an exception to the rule, then it kind of goes against the premise that was thrown at me that this series is supposed to be about the average citizen in the empire. So I mean, right there, right off the bat, it didn't seem to fit the premise of the series. And then on top of that, it was pointed out to me by various fellow fanfic oriented people in the fandom that follow me as mutuals on Twitter. Some of these folks have been with me, like Allie. Shout out to you, Allie. I've worked on a blog with her about Captain Marvel before. She wanted to interview me, and we're working on something else, by the way. So I just wanted to plug that for Allie.
Awesome.
And yeah, and these are great people, and some of them I've known for about 2 years now on Twitter, and they were all upset. And at first, I was like, wow, why is everybody so upset? What's going on? But there was this, and I can't remember the at name for this girl on Twitter, but her name is Katie, apparently, and she had this long thread, and she broke it all down panel by panel on how there were all these tropes and pop culture references to like the Little Mermaid and to the Phantom of the Opera, specifically like a reenactment of Christine telling the Phantom not to put the mask back on because she loves him anyways, but with this female character and Darth Vader. Um, and so the point that they made, and I'll keep it short, is that these were all tropes that the fan fiction community like, or they admire, or they like to use. And the whole comic book read like fan fiction from almost a Reylo point of view. All right. But then the end premise is nope, we all know Darth Vader is evil, and that's it. And he kills the girl at the end. And to be fair, and I've said this to all of my friends on Twitter that were upset about this, that makes sense. Him killing this girl, to me, that makes sense because he's almost as completely on the dark side at this point in the timeline as he will ever be. There's this hints in his psyche that we've already seen in the previous Vader run and in canon in the movies and in Rebels, but not so much in Rebels, that he still has these flashbacks of Padme. And why would he want anyone else to love him at this point, in his psychological journey as a character? So that I understood. There was also the point made that this character, this female character, had invaded his privacy because you see him in his meditation chamber. And I think it's important to point that out too. And she walks in on him with his, not just the mask off, but the helmet and the mask off. And you see like the burnt up, still healing Anakin Vader face that you see in Return of the Jedi. So I get why he killed her. My whole problem with it is, did we need this story? What purpose did this story serve? Did it tell us anything new about Anakin or Vader's character at all? And I don't think it did. And instead, it just seems too on the nose with the way it was written. Someone else who I adore on Twitter said, well, maybe it's a cautionary tale for obsessive fandom. And I said, well, a lot of us are obsessive fans, I guess. I mean, we wouldn't be bloviating about Star Wars day in, day out if we weren't. So I don't really know that the story group should be greenlighting comic books that are cautionary tales against devoted parts of their fan base. It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, so you sent this to me and I was reading it, and it really, I'm not like a Reylo. I think compassion and love is going to be the key to the end of this, because I think that's what Star Wars ultimately is all about anyway. Not so much, maybe not right in your face, but on some level it's going to play out. But yeah, this was just something that I had that same reaction. Like, why did I read
Right.
this? Is how I felt. And at the same time, people were blowing up and angry about it, and I was almost, and to be completely honest with me, and I hope nobody hates me on this, I was almost like, let's save our breaths on this one. Let's just, like, this is, like, this issue of this comic is one of those things that we could just shove in the back. I mean, buy it and keep it and hang it up on your wall, and, like, in 20 years it'll be worth something. But, like, like, just kind of put it away and pretend it didn't happen. Because it seemed to me that that's how easy it was. Like, it's really easy to just be like, all right, this was a hiccup. Let's move on from this. I mean, it's a comic book that blew up, and the story is inconsequential to anything that comes before it or even after it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. I'm hoping that things like this, though, don't become the norm. Like, I think that maybe there's, within even Lucasfilm, there are these oscillating reactions to counter reactions. It's kind of like, I love the analogy of punk music and heavy metal music and rock music in general and punk, and then metal. And the point I'm making is that rock became dispopular with the disenfranchised in England, right, in the late 60s, early 70s, and that gave birth to punk. And then by virtue of that reaction to rock, metal became a reaction to punk to a degree, almost trying to get back to the rock roots. And even people like Lemmy Kilmister from Motorhead, he cites Little Richard as being his biggest influence for a reason, because that's, to him, the root of rock and roll. And he wanted to get away from both, the prog stuff and the hippie stuff, and get back to what he felt was the root of rock and roll. And now, Motorhead's always going to be known as a heavy metal band when really he wanted to be a rock band. And so I think that's what's going on here too. I think that there's kind of a lot of debate within Lucasfilm. This is just speculation, but where at first, there was a bit of catering to, let's broaden the fan base, let's bring more female fans in, which I believe they should. I mean, look, I'm a single guy, and if I could meet a nice, friendly female who loves Star Wars, that's great for me, So I don't know why anybody out there who's a guy would be complaining about that. I never understood that. My sister and me are a year and a half apart, and we used to play pretending to be Luke and Leia, So I've never thought of Star Wars as something that's just for guys. I think I've always felt that that's silly. But anyways, maybe there was a bit of internal backlash, like, oh, maybe we went too far, pushing something that, some people picked up on. Now let's greenlight some stories where we're kind of pushing back, like, okay, well, we're not necessarily catering to just this fan base. I'm not saying that that's what this comic was, but it did feel just very specific and on the nose, and that's all I'm saying. So I don't understand how it could be accidental.
Yeah, it definitely was on the nose, and it was what it was, and they knew what they were doing when they did it, and I think they did it, look, it's creating a buzz. It created a buzz on social media. We're doing this video right now. People are talking about it. I've seen other reviews of it online. People are talking about this comic. People will go out and they will buy this comic to see what's going on, and it reminds me of Mark Hamill saying #missed opportunities. You're rocking the boat.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. They're rocking the boat.
That.
And my only question is, what is the point? I don't I don't read the comics that often. I was, and then I started to get kind of, I just felt, I love Darth Maul, and the Darth Maul one kind of lost me. No, not, and then look, I will buy like the, when they're all in like a paper graphic novel type thing. Do you know what I mean? And Brock is also sending me codes to read them. So I will be catching up on the comics eventually. So I'm not too familiar with this whole series right now. But is there a purpose to this series, or is it just like we're like what you just said, like we're just going to show the Empire be evil? Because I feel like we already know the Empire's evil, and it's done so much better for me personally in a book like Lords of the Sith, where you see how amazing Vader and Palpatine actually are. I feel like that kind of drives the point home better than Vader just stabbing a fangirl through the chest.
Well, I think, wow, there's so much to unpack here. So, but I want to go back because I'm not saying that there's a conspiracy. Like I shouldn't say that either. But I'll say I can't stand it when people want to pigeonhole anybody who has any kind of idle speculation, because I have a ton of it, unfortunately. So I'll admit that now. But as conspiracy, especially regarding like a fictional franchise, that's just silly. But anyways, I do find it rather odd that this Dark Visions comic book, because they planned these things out, right?
Oh yeah.
It dropped like within the same week as Avengers Endgame. Okay, and then 2 days later, we get this hyperbolic, controversial tweet like you brought up from Mark Hamill, this #missed opportunities, which basically blew up. Now it's a trend on Twitter, within Star Wars Twitter, all these people #missed opportunities, and whatever they feel was a missed opportunity, and then you even have people like Chuck Wendig and other folks like basically like, hey Mark, you might want to just calm down just a little bit, buddy, But is there is this just a coincidence that this is the same weekend after the fire from Star Wars Celebration in Chicago has started to die down a little bit, and now all the hype for Avengers is accelerating, and maybe there's this push and pull to keep Star Wars kind of, as a talking point at all costs, so they don't lose momentum. Mm-hmm. We don't know when the next trailer is going to drop, right? So if they have the next trailer planned for, let's say, a month from now or longer than that, I did throw out there, what if Mark Hamill is playing what I call bad cop? Okay, and so my idea is that what if there's been so many leaks and you got people, and by the way, I'm going to mention this dude's name for a reason, like Mike Zero, okay? And I know a lot of people can't stand Mike Zero, okay? My opinion on Mike Zero is that this guy, no matter whether or not he has any credible sources or not, sometimes he has really cool ideas. And he got so much attention from Ryan
Yeah,
Johnson, right? Ryan Johnson made him blow up.
of course he did.
That wouldn't it be ironic if this guy really does have some real leaks? And there's people, and I know he gets a lot of stuff from Reddit, and we all know that Reddit has some real leaks, okay? So what if Mark Hamill knows that there is a scene, guys, with the old gang back together, and whether it's a de-aging process flashback, or whether it's a force ghost something or other, or a force vision something. But what if there is a scene of Luke and Leia and Han and Lando and Chewie and 3PO and R2 and the whole gang, and somehow there's a scene in The Rise of Skywalker, and Mark is basically covering up. Thank you, Noah. Mark is basically covering up for that possibility. You know, what do you think about that, James?
I think that's plausible. I think that's extremely plausible on a lot of fronts. I mean, who else would know the movie better than him? And if it's a misdirect, that's well played on his part. The only thing I have to say is that picture was released by somebody randomly. I saw it come up. So somebody showed him, or it caught his attention. He just wrote missed opportunities. And I think it was just an ultimate troll job. I'm not going to be surprised if the gang is back together in some capacity in this last film. I am not going to be surprised whatsoever. And it could just be footage from Empire Strikes Back or from Return of the Jedi. It could be old footage like that, and we'll see them, and there might be this moment, and we might get that for all we know. I have no idea, but I feel like Mark Hamill saying that was the ultimate troll job. He was just having fun, and I think sometimes he does these things, and he knows what he's doing, but I think it just blows up bigger than he kind of imagined. And I would like to just, off the record, just be like, hey, Mark Hamill, let's have a conversation. Do you secretly hate Star Wars fandom? Is that what's going on here? Do you hate the fandom?
I don't know, but Noah, actually, my son Noah. So sorry for you folks watching at home. So I do have a 4-year-old, and he is a stormtrooper. He's in the background. He's taking out some of the bad, evil stormtroopers that Kylo Ren is bossing around, and the ones that are still on General Hux's side. He is part of Finn's stormtrooper revolt. That's
nice.
My son is, yeah. And he brought me this. So that's what this was that you guys saw come across the screen. This is actually JJ's mystery box. So what's inside? Actually, nothing. It's like, yeah, it's like peeling away an onion, guys. If you keep peeling away, there's actually nothing in there. So that was fun talking about the mystery box with Noah. Sorry, guys, for that little interlude that we just had there. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mark Hamill, Dark Vision, Star Wars is never going to go away. Controversies will be all around us. To wrap up the Dark Visions talk, I don't really understand the point of the comic still, but like I said, I haven't really been reading the comics. I'm sure there's like a whole, I know everybody could comment like, there's a billion points, a point is this, a point is that. I think it was just I think it was just a fluff piece. I think it was in there to rile people up, to show like Vader's a real bad guy. And you know what? To the Reylo point, to the Reylos out there that are really, they're like taking it personally. Maybe it could also be to show this is how bad Vader was. Kylo will never be that bad, and that is the difference between the two characters.
Well, I mean, you know what's funny? I'm glad you brought that up. I was kind of afraid to bring up that point, to be honest with you. And the reason why I say that is because I actually think that might be part of this. And also the reaction that a lot of my friends on Twitter had, and including myself, I think that we didn't even want to say out loud that maybe that's what the point they're trying to drive home. Like, but I think that's what people are thinking, or at least subconsciously, that's how they reacted. This is, I mean, in a way, it could be a veiled attack against Reylo. Like, forget it, people. It's never going to happen. And if we have to drive the point home through, hey, look at what Vader did to this girl who fell in love with him, when he was completely engulfed by the dark side, then that's what we're going to do, people. We're trying to throw you hints now. Don't get your hopes up. He's going down as Kylo Ren, master of the galaxy, supreme leader of the new empire, and then we hear the Imperial March come in, and he's got his red clone stormtrooper Sith whatever, and then he just starts just whooping ass, and forget about it. Yeah,
well, you know what? I'm down. I shouldn't say that. I'm down with
too.
anything they bring to me. When December 20th hits, I am down for whatever they put in front of me. Bring it, right. Star Wars.
Right, exactly. Hey, I try to keep an open mind. Like, I'm with you. Reylo is more about compassion to me, and that could still happen.
Yeah, for sure. Because everyone says, well, how could Rey love Kylo? Look, maybe Rey never will, but that doesn't mean Kylo's not going to have some kind of feelings for her. Like, because I don't think that's lost there, where she might be like, he is a monster, like she says, and maybe there's no turning back for her, but he could still be like, there's something there for me personally, and if you're not going to see it, that's fine, but because of that, X has to happen. That's how it could
be. There is one point that I want to make here,
yeah.
and maybe you'll want to indulge this at a later time in depth, but I would like to throw this at you. Here's really my angle on Reylo. So first of all, it goes back to a mirroring of Anakin and Padme, and I feel that you can't get away from what both Anakin and Padme wanted together, which was peace for the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And Padme represented the political end of that as a senator and a queen, right? And Anakin represented the old Jedi Order end of that, with the Jedi protecting the Republic and that sort of thing. Now, what do we have with Rey and Kylo? We have this like bastard prince of this lineage of the Skywalkers and the Solos who's fallen away from his own lineage and duties, right? So that is still representing in a way the Jedi end of things, like Anakin did. But then with Rey, it's interesting because instead of being from a royal lineage, hold on, that we know of yet, because this trilogy isn't over. Like I got into it with somebody on Twitter about, well, these questions that we have about who is Rey, they just weren't answered. And I go, well, it's not done yet. So get back to me on December 21st. And if all those questions weren't answered, I'll be the first person to complain. I will admit it. I hate to say this, guys, but if they just leave it with, she's crying and in a moment of despair, and Kylo ekes out of her saying that herself that, oh, they were nobodies. That's not the same thing to me as if she was in a calm, peaceful state of mind and she's talking to a different character and then she said, oh yeah, they were nobodies. It's a different context, and he was messing with her emotions. But anyways, the point I wanted to make is that if there is going to be any redemption for Ben, he might die because of it.
Yeah,
I get
absolutely,
that, yeah. Right? Okay, but here's how I think he could do it. This movie's called Star Wars, right? So what if he's the one with all the power, and he is like the emperor now, right? And he's the one, because of his love or compassion for Rey, and he sees what his forces are doing to everyone. And I don't know, there could just be that moment of reckoning, and I don't know how Darth Sidious could be involved in this moment or not, where Kylo Ren retires, and he orders all of the forces of the First Order to lay their weapons down. He ends the Empire himself on his command. And maybe not everybody agrees, right? Maybe Hux is like, this is my opportunity to show everyone else that this guy's weak. We got a soft boy on our hands, and and no, I'm not going to let this stand, and that could be the schism within the First Order. But if he did that successfully, and then maybe Hux takes him out because of it, that's, to me, that would redeem him if he could end the galactic war that's been going on since the fall of the Republic. When the Clone Wars started, basically.
That'd be incredible. I think there's so many opportunities. This is the end of the Skywalker saga, so whatever happens at the end here is going to be big. It's gonna
be awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna have an impact.
It's gonna be awesome.
You know what, J.J. Abrams mystery box. I think you're right. It is empty because I think everything that was stuffed in there is gonna be out on this one. I mean, he might sprinkle in a couple things later on, but it'll basically just be dust. And, it's gonna be so much fun. Cannot wait for this. Anyway,
neither can I, man.
Let us know what you guys think of that comic in the comments below, and Mark Hamill's comments as well. I think, look, Mark Hamill likes to have fun. The Vader comic, I'm curious. The thing is it an overreaction? Are we going to find out more as time goes on? Is there a purpose to this? So, I mean, this is what I'm really curious about to see, to hear from. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on that one. Anyway, guys, this has been Unleashed. Aaron, thanks for joining me. Where can everybody find you? Because you are very active on Twitter.
Hey, thank you, James. No, I really appreciate being here. I love everything that you guys do, you and Brock and Andrew and Darth Ward. When we do get to see Darth Ward,
he's living he's like Palpatine. He's been gone.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And Noah says bye to everybody as well. You can
bye, Noah.
Bye, Noah. I'm just teasing. So yeah, you can find me and Noah at Aaron Quinton 78. That's AARONQUINTON 78 on Twitter.
Thanks, guys, and as always, may the force of others be with you.
Bye. Hey, scumbags! Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.